Hey folks, happy Thursday to you. Let's turn this down a little here. All right, hope you are doing well. Apologies for the last minute change here, but I'm officially on quarantine status. I've got a couple sick kiddos at home, and based on their symptoms, our health and safety officer said stay home. I'm just trying to be cautious here. So there's no respiratory issues so far, but they both, or three of them, all had fevers, and so it's been a little rough, but I'm feeling okay, so that's a good sign, I think. But I'll give it a couple more days, and I'll go get tested. Hey, Professor Perp, how you doing today? Hey, E404. What is the oomph? UNNF? E404 oomph? I don't know how to say that one. But I'm still working on my cold brew coffee here. I got from my local coffee shop, so I am wired and ready to go tonight. Username not found. Error 404, username not found. I like it. I like it. All right. So we have chapters 1 and 2 planned for tonight, and then we're going to talk about the first real project. Where project 0 was really, hey, can you get the tools up and running? Don't forget that one is due tonight, 11:59 p.m. I'm sorry I'm not there in person to help make sure it's working out for you. Oh, I had to do it for 6 p.m. Sure, before class started, but that's fine if you want to get it in tonight. No big deal there. We just want to make sure you can get your PHP site up and running and you get your Hello World. For project 1, that'll be our first real project, and we'll go from there. And there is the syllabus quiz as well that I need you to take before 11:59 p.m., please. So it's just questions about the syllabus, how you can contact me, ways you can watch class, although in-person live is not an option currently, but hopefully we'll get back to that. I sent all my status information to our health and safety officer, but poor Mr. Michael Schmidt, he's doing all of the tracing for all 5 campuses everywhere, and just from some of my faculty friends I've talked to, we already have a good half dozen cases that I know of. Most people were good and didn't come to class, but occasionally we've had people come to class, and that causes all sorts of issues. So I don't know how he's managing that, poor guy, but he is working on that, doing the best he can for us. So it's going to be a little crazy, so apologies for that. But hopefully this format will work okay. I'll be live. I do have that Discord voice channel. If anyone wants to hop in there, just let me know you're in there. I'm not in there by default, but happy to hop in there so you can talk at me in Discord. It'll be delayed by a couple seconds from the stream, but it shouldn't be a problem there. We'll still be basically on the same topic, or you're welcome to just join on Twitch chat or watch asynchronously if none of this sounds like your cup of tea. Just watch the videos at your leisure and then send me questions. Oh, I do have official office hours. I didn't update the syllabus yet, though. Let me go update that. Or I have an updated version. I guess I didn't upload it. I thought I did, but I didn't see it when I looked. So based on the survey everybody filled out, I'm going to try and have hours that fit most people's schedule. And I know it doesn't, this was the best overlap I could do. It wasn't for everybody. So if those times don't work for you, please email me and suggest a couple times that do work for you, and I'll do my best to find one that works, for both of us. All right, so I'm going to get rid of the PDF because we don't need that. The Word document was working okay. Yes, delete. So here, I'm going to do Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 to 9 in the morning, and Wednesdays from 2 to 5. So that'll be 5 hours worth throughout the week, available to meet with you. If you want to reserve one of those times, just shoot me a message, and I'll reserve one of those for you. This seemed to be hitting the most people I could, aside from the times that I couldn't make it. A lot of people put around dinner time and stuff where I'm trying to spend some time with my family, and I have classes Tuesday and Thursday night anyway, so those times didn't work. So I'm trying to get as many people as I can, but happy to make appointments and meet other times as well. We have other cool collaborative tools. Discord's great, Zoom's great. We can do screen sharing, so I can help essentially over your shoulder with what's going on. Again, if you're stuck on something, please do reach out. Right? The goal is not that you just get frustrated and upset and then walk away mad. The goal is that you're able to do all of these things. And if you're stuck somewhere, please reach out. Right? I'm happy to get you unstuck. Now, I'm not gonna solve it for you, but I'll get you pointed in the right direction, show you where you need to go look hey, this is the particular thing we need to practice and go from there. So, and we also have the tutoring. You can book appointments with Miss Rika. She's fantastic, and she's a good resource as well. All right, so tonight, Chapter 1 and 2, so our Intro to Web Development with PHP, kind of cover a couple web development basics, and then starting with some PHP in Chapter 2. So it starts off a little generic, and then we'll get specifically into PHP, which is pretty cool, and then we'll do our first project. Okay? All right, so let me fire up NetBeans here. NetBeans. Come on, we can make this load. I don't know what this is doing. All right, cool. So just some basics while we start here. Before we get into any of our code, we're going to look at what a web server actually is and what it's doing behind the scenes. So we can draw some fun pictures. Pictures are always good. So you imagine this is your computer here, right? Here's your little screen, right? Here's your keyboard with all your letters. That's our keyboard. So this is your PC, okay? Somewhere out here, you're on a network. Whether or not it's a cable here, this is, probably an Ethernet cable if you're plugged in, or over Wi-Fi. What do we do? Like a little Wi-Fi signal here. Right, you go out to your little router box that you have somewhere. This is our router. And the router's job, right, is to connect you to the internet, right, out to the cloud. This is the big wide web, internet. Okay, so we connect out there, whether or not we're wired in or not. Right? The router is going to talk to our internet service provider, or our ISP. Right? Their job is to actually finish this connection here. So they're kind of in the middle. There's different internet service providers. You're probably familiar with Comcast or AT&T. There's some of the big ones. But we have some other small players out there as well, which is cool. So your local network is everything up to your router. This is all local. Right? You don't need to go anywhere outside of that local area network for local things. Right? Aside from that, once you start hitting things bigger, it's a wide area network, or WAN here. Those terms aren't all that important. Don't worry too much about it. But what happens is, out on the internet, we can go find other web servers. So we'll put this little box here. We'll call this our web server. And web servers' jobs are to respond to web traffic. Web traffic, that's a W. Right. So web traffic are things that go over HTTP, that's the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, or HTTPS, the secure version. So if you look at any website, you'll notice you have HTTPS. It's typically, most websites nowadays, again, are secure. We're pretty good about that. It used to be a little trickier to do secure stuff, but now it's really easy. Everything should be secured, and if it's not, you should feel bad about yourself. Again, we're going to do everything over the unsecure version because it's just easier for us, and the focus isn't on secure websites. It's not on website administration. It's on web development and writing the code itself. So we don't care for our purposes too much about secure or not, but you'll see it's secure. And if you, depending on your browser or flavor, you can go take a look at the certificate here. We use this public and private key certificate method here for secure communication. This is all RSA encryption, which is cool. So it says, hey, it's star.desiretololearn.com. So anything.desiretololearn.com is secured by this certificate. And you can see it's issued by Amazon. This is the root certificate authority. You can do all more security stuff later. Because we trust Amazon's root certificate authority, we trust that this certificate was issued in good faith and belongs to these people. And we're going to use this information to secure our connection to the web server. All sorts of fun stuff happens there. So to initiate a secure connection, you use their public key that they give out publicly, and they have their private key. Now, what's cool about public and private key cryptography, that's this RSA, is typically our common version here. Developed, the founders were R, S, and A are their initials, and I forget. We could go look it up. But what happens is if you take a public key and you encrypt a message, it is only readable by somebody who holds the private key. So if you take your message and you secure it, you know, here's a little like key here or something, right? This is, sure, that's a key. Why not? If you take that public key, only someone who holds the private key can read it. Okay? If someone takes a message and encrypts it with the private key here, anybody with the public key can read it. So what happens is they send you a message encrypted by the private key, and you say, oh, hey, the public key lets me read this message. They must own or have access to the private key. We say, great, that's good. Then we take the public key, we encrypt a message, and we send it back to them, and they're able to decrypt that message using the private key. And what happens in our communication back and forth, right, from our computer here, right out to the internet, that's a cloud. It's a terrible cloud, I'm sorry. Clouds are fluffy, right? That looks awful. Out to their web server somewhere here, right? We then negotiate a separate encryption scheme here. So this public and private key is called asynchronous. Asynchronous encryption. It means it's different each direction. Is that right? Asynchronous? I think that's right. I think that's the right term. Oh, someone just messaged me. Let me just make sure I'm not not someone who can't watch the stream here. Sorry. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Wrong thing. Wrong thing. Nope. Goodness. How do I do this? Pro streamer here. So good at this. All right. Yep. Okay. They're in good shape. We can go back. All right. So public and private key is asynchronous, and you'll negotiate a synchronous key, which means you use the same key both directions back and forth. Now what's cool about this is fast. So synchronous is fast. Asynchronous is slow. So we use the slow method to negotiate the fast method. And we know that because they're able to encrypt something with a private key, we can decrypt it with the public key. We trust that they have access to the key. And because we encrypt it with the public key, only someone who has access to the private key can decrypt it. So that's all of our secure communication starts over the web. And then the web server then, so this is all of our HTTPS traffic. Ooh, that's ugly, I'm sorry. HTTP, yeah, that's close. All of our traffic then can be secured using that when we talk to our web servers. Life is good, we're happy. Okay, our communications, yep. It all happens over the network. Typically, what we transfer then is HTML. It's our hypertext markup language. And the term's not all that important, but we consider this a markup language. So HTML is not a programming language, it's a markup language. It's saying, hey, here's the content. You don't have to be, it's not programming per se to do that. And what happens here is when we initially started with the web and HTML, this was all static content. So we would go out to the web server and we would put a file like index.html, and it would have certain contents. And that was it. That's all it had. It was that exact file would be sent back to your client. So you would access their index.html, we'd send you back the hypertext markup language, and then your browser would display it. Right? So our browser, like Internet Explorer here, right, or Firefox or Chrome, whatever you're using, would display that HTML. Okay, so we're able to display the contents. Now, just having static websites is kind of difficult because if something needs to change, we have to go and update that file on the web server. But it's okay, it can work. So I'm going to start up a new PHP project. I'm going to go to PHP, we want a PHP application. Now, I don't want to put it in this htdocs folder, right? I want to put it inside of my GitHub repository. I'm going to go to 2454 for the fall. Okay. And I want a new project inside of here that we're going to call, nope, source folder is already in NetBeans. So we need a subfolder inside of that. So we're going to call this first website. Hey there, my friend, the Reluctant Hermit. Thanks for coming on by. well, I don't know, my first website. And what I want to do, I want to put that inside of another folder here. So we'll say my first website. This will just make NetBeans a little bit happier, keeping everything inside of another folder here. We'll make this a little bit more organized. So again, my first website inside of my repository folder. So Git, which is my way of tracking all of these files, can track it. And then my first website. I'll say next. My local website, great. Oh, I should start up XAMPP here. So XAMPP, again, is our way of running our Apache web server that will serve as the PHP server. So it can deal with PHP stuff. It's really cool. And again, I had to change the port number. If you didn't have to change the port number, fantastic. Life is good. But if you did have to change the port number, right, mine's 5080. We're going to come here to localhost, and we're going to say :5080. Sorry, it's a little small there, but don't worry too much about it. And then we want to say, I want to copy my files to another location. I want to copy them into the htdocs folder, and I'll put them in my first website. So the path here for my first website is going to match the folder here inside. Oh, nice. Okay, Shiba, so you're able to do it. So on my computer, my laptop here, port 80 is already in use by IIS, because I do Windows development as well, and IIS does not like to share. But if it works for you, fantastic. So running as admin, it's a good tip. So I want to copy everything into this my first website. So anything that's in htdocs after here should match. So the name of the folder should match the URL that we're going here. That's a convention that our PHP server is going to follow to make life easy for us. So we want those to match. And then we don't need any frameworks right now. We don't need any composer things right now. We can go to finish. I don't know about you folks, but I'm a pumpkin spice. I'll admit it. So I got a little bit of the pumpkin spice syrup in here, and it is phenomenal. Super, super happy to have a little bit inside the cold brew. All right, so the project view, my first website, has a source index.php. Inside of this, right now is all static. There's a little PHP block here, but I can actually get rid of that PHP block here. And then inside my body, I'll say my first website. I'm just going to save that here. So this is a static file. I know it's a PHP file, but it's essentially, there's nothing that PHP is going to do to change it here. So all you're going to get is this content every time. So again, I'm going to change my default browser because I want to use not the default browser. I want to use Firefox. And I'm going to hit run. It's going to launch out Firefox to localhost :5080/myfirstwebsite. Index.php is automatically added there, and I'll see my first website. So I get to see my website. So if you right-click on a website in a browser, you usually have an option for somewhere around View Page Source. Each browser is a little bit different looking, but what you'll see is the source here. This is the HTML, raw HTML. And that should match exactly what's here, right? Because that's what we had. We're going to see everything here. So this is the HTML that's transferred. Another cool thing you can do, your browsers will have a developer tool. So if you hit F12, it should open up the developer tool window in any of your browsers. And if you go to the network view, you can see the network communication going back and forth. So this is really fun for us to see what's happening behind the scenes. So if I refresh, I'm going to see, hey, I sent a request out to index.php here. And it even tells you, hey, this is the size of the file. It took 12 milliseconds to get it here. Great. And I can click on that request here, and I'll see all sorts of other information about this HTML request. So I send a request out as the browser here, and I get a specific response from the web server. So this is the response I get, and you can go to raw, and it's going to show you the HTML. So you can kind of see it side by side here, which is fun. So you see your request, right? It was just a bunch of all this information. You send a bunch of other cool things behind the scenes, and you get a response back. It's pretty cool. So the dev tools is going to be really helpful when we start actually doing more interactive stuff here. All right, so that's the basics for a static file. So again, nothing changes. It just takes the file and transfers it. Now what we can do instead is PHP is a language here that our Apache web server can go and do things dynamically. So every time you request a page from a web server. If it's a PHP site, our Apache web server can grab that request. So in this case, that was just a static file here. But if we have Apache, this is our web server. Its job is to respond to those requests. It will take your PHP file and it will dynamically change the contents. So this is a dynamic page here. Oh my goodness, my handwriting is terrible. I'm sorry. Dynamic. I think it's like the stylus. I don't pick it up far enough, so like everything kind of... Okay. You know what? I can do this. I have a text block. I can say dynamic. Look at that. And now that's actually more readable. I should use text blocks more often. So it dynamically looks at the contents and can change it based on whatever I want to put inside of my PHP file here. So to do that, you put this PHP block. So a PHP block starts with a, I think this is a less than sign, question mark PHP, and then ends with a question mark greater than sign. So when your PHP server, in our case we're using Apache, gets to this block as it's reading the HTML file or reading your PHP file, it says, oh wait, you want to do something in code. So in code, we can do all sorts of cool PHP things. Hey Snake, how you doing today? I'm back to teaching from the home office due to my quarantine status. I got some sick kiddos, so it's been a little rough, but we're going to make do. So we can say echo. So echo is our PHP keyword here, right? This is PHP is a programming language. And then I can say, I don't know, hi there. And then end with a semicolon. Right? I'm going to just give it a save. And then if I come back to my browser and refresh my page, now we get hi there. This is a dynamic page now. Right? And again, I'll see hi there in my response. The HTML that's returned is this. So what happened is the PHP web server took this block and replaced what's inside of it with HTML. Yeah, I made it 1 week on campus there, Snake. 1 week. But, you know, that happens. So we're making do. Hopefully we'll be back soon. I have to send all sorts of documentation to our health and safety officer. So the PHP web server is taking this file here, and it's reading it and converting all of these PHP blocks into HTML that gets sent back. So on the client side, with my web server, or with my web browser here, I don't see any PHP code. All I get is HTML back, because the web server is doing that conversion for me. Thanks so much, Snake. Appreciate it. You take care. Okay, you with me so far? With my terrible scribbles? So it takes PHP, it converts it to HTML, and then sends it back. That's what is dynamic about it. Yep, there's lots of web browsers, there's lots of web servers, there's lots of... PHP is considered a server-side language because the web server is doing the work here. You might have taken JavaScript before. JavaScript is client-side. So JavaScript is client-side. So the web browser executes JavaScript. This is the browser here. Browser executes JavaScript. A web server executes the PHP and sends back HTML. And then more often than not, all of our websites nowadays are backed by a database. So we'll learn next week how we can start building a database out that our web server can connect to be able to store information, get information back out, and be dynamic in a way like Desire to Learn. When you log in with your account, and it pulls up all your information. That's all stored in the database somewhere. We're going to use MySQL or MySQL. It's an open source version here. It's great. There's a nice history of it. Sure, go for it. They'll take you through building your own page. Yeah, that's fine. we're not going to do really anything at all with cascading style sheets or CSS. So CSS is how to make things pretty. We don't really care about things that are pretty right now. Our focus is web development and learning the tools and techniques of web development. If you want to make things pretty, go take a web development, or my goodness, yes, they still call it web development. I'm trying to think of what the name is here, but the browser side, client side, you can do cascading style sheets there. We're not going to bother with them. Right? So the book gives you all sorts of examples on how to do them. That's great. We don't need to worry too much about it here. Web design. Thank you. Web design. Yes. That's web design. Okay. I need to remember to lift the pen more. So one letter, lift. One letter, lift. Look at that. Look how much better that is. Web design. Thank you. 44, no 44. Okay. Not a fan of the number 44. All right. So because web design was not a prerequisite for this course, I don't expect you to really be able to do much with HTML. And that's okay. So all of the HTML stuff we're going to do, we're essentially going to copy out of the book. Not necessarily everything letter for letter, but we're going to copy most of it out. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this now be a little more interactive. So to do that, you use this thing called a form in HTML. And we're going to give it an action. The action is, where is this thing going to go? We're going to go to, I don't know, let's call it display.php. So when you submit this form, it's going to send you to the display.php page. And method, then we're going to do a get method here. There's get and there's post. So get methods are typically done for more read-only sort of things. And we'll look at some differences there in a little bit. Post methods are more for like submissions and things that you want to save or change. It's going to interact a little bit more. So we'll start off with a get here. Now again, not too big of a deal. And we'll put a div in here. And then we'll put a label inside of here. Oops, div, we'll do a label. And our label will say, this is enter your name. Label. So with HTML, everything starts with a tag and ends with a tag. So slash name of the tag ends that tag. So we're going to have, here's the start of the body, here's the end of the body. Here's the start of the HTML, here's the end of the HTML. So everything kind of matches here. So you're always going to have matches. And then we're going to have an input. Our type is going to be text. A text input is a text box that the user can type into the screen. We give it a name that we can identify it with here. We're going to call it name. And then we're good with our input. A BR is a line break here. Usually it's /BR, but I guess just BRs are fine too. That's okay. So we'll have an input, and I think do the slash. The book doesn't have the slash, but I think we usually do the slash. So the slash means we ended here. So there was no ending tag because this was the entire tag, just input and end here. And then we're going to end that div. Oh, we already have our ending div here. We're going to do another div. We're going to put in this one. I guess sometimes the type ahead suggestions here are not great. Inside of this one, we're going to put a label. You know, let's forget the label. We don't even need that. We'll just have an input. And this type is a submit. Submit. So the submit one is a button. And our value here is what's going to show on that button. We're going to say, I don't know, go. Or click me. We'll say click me. Click me is fun. We'll end that input, and then we'll add another line break. These line breaks are to make things move down in HTML. I'm going to end my form. And so we start a form, we put in a text box input, and we put a submit button in. That's our whole form. I'm going to save that. And now the web server is already running, so I don't really need to hit the run button again. I can just come back to my browser and hit refresh. And I should see, okay, enter your name and click me. So I'll put in Eric and I'll put click me. And I get, oh, not found, the display.php. My web server can't find a file named display.php. This question mark name equals Eric is the get data. It's the label, or I'm sorry, the input box that we called name and the value of whatever the user typed in here. So we need to come back to our project here. We're going to go to the source files. We want to right click and we're going to say new PHP file. This was display. So this is our display.php file. Starts off empty PHP tag. Right? We don't have anything in there right now. That's okay. We're going to go add some stuff in a second. No big deal. Okay? So inside of the PHP block here, we're going to do our code. Now again, there's lots of different ways to go about it here. I like the book's convention of doing all of the code at the top, and then the bottom section is all of the display stuff. So I'm going to come back here. I'm going to essentially copy all of this here for now and copy paste it into my display file. I'm going to take out this whole form. I don't need any of that. Okay, but I just want all of this boilerplate HTML stuff here. I'll take out that little comment as well. So I want all of the HTML things down here, and all my code's going to go up above. So what we can do then is we can get the data out of the requests. So to do that, we're going to need a place to store it. So in PHP, all of your variable names start with a $. I'm going to say $name is equal to, or we're going to assign it the value of, and we say $_get. So $_get is get me the get data. So something that comes in this get request here, this name equals Eric. So to get the value of name, I'm going to say get, and then in square braces, I'm going to put name with a quote. So it's going to go out and get the information from the get request. It's going to look for a key of name and give me the value associated with it. Okay? Let me just ban those bots real quick. Sorry about that. Okay, now I have this variable for name that I can use everywhere else in my code. Now, what I want to do with it is down here, I'm going to say, hi there, and then I'm going to start a PHP block. And I'm going to say echo name. That's my PHP block. Oh, there we go. Want to be famous? Well, what if someone asks me if I want to be famous, like, who should be there, Professor Perp? Right? Like, if you guys ask if I want to be famous. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what, Twitch bots. Yeah, they shouldn't ask Professor Perp. I wonder, just like auto mod the comment, right? We'll just mod the word famous, because we don't need to talk about anything that's famous. Need better TTV. You know, I don't actually know what that means. Sorry. All right. So now what's going to happen is when a request is sent to the display.php page, it's going to get the name out of the get parameters. Oh, a Twitch plugin? Okay. I don't use any plugins. I have Nightbot and then just vanilla OBS and Stream Elements. So more emotes. Do we need more emotes? I mean, we've got the coffee one. What else do you need? So it's going to do all of this PHP code first, and then it's going to take this HTML response, process this. It's just going to take whatever name was and spit it out. Let's try that. I'm going to give it a save. We'll come back to, I just went back to the index page, click me, and now I get, here's the display PHP page. I see name equals Eric, and I get, hi there, Eric. So in my dev tools here, I can see this is the response. Again, now I can see in my request, where did it go? I think it's in the headers. No cookies. Oh, it's just get data. So it's just in the URL. So I can actually change this URL here, and I can put in, you know, a bunch of gibberish. Whatever that gibberish is going to show up here because it's just grabbing this data, sticking it in here. Right? Now, if I don't have name and I try and go to display, I get, ooh, undefined array key name in exam htdocs, my first website, display PHP line 2. I still get the hi there, but I get my PHP garbage here, this error. So this is bad. It's saying, hey, here at line 2, it couldn't find a name. That's no good. We did a bad thing. So the page doesn't work if you don't give it that name information. So if I just say name equals, it can be blank, but if it's not there, we're going to have problems. So again, there's better ways we can go about dealing with all that, but we don't need to worry too much about. But let's close the DevTools. It's F12 to close it. So we'll see we can pass it some information. And we can pass it more than one thing. So we can have back here on our index page, we can have name, and then maybe I want to do another input here. How about we do name and enter your major? And this will be major. So if I reload my page here, we go back to the index page, and I enter your major. Mine's the Doctor of Engineering program. And you'll see it shows up now. So question mark, name equals Eric, ampersand, stand? I don't remember if there's a T there or not, ampersand, major equals this. So all of the get data is put into the URL. So the request that you send to the web server has anything that comes in a GET request appended to the URL here. It's all included. Again, we didn't do anything with it, but we can come back to our display page, and we could do that if we wanted. So we could have major is my $get major. And we'll say, hi there, Eric. We'll add a line break. Oops, sorry, let's do that over here. And we'll say, no, I don't want that comment. Thank you. Major is another PHP echo major. Semicolon. Close our tag. So now if I come back to my page and refresh, I see your major is Doctor of Engineering. Fantastic. So I can pass more than one piece of information in that request. You can pass all sorts of information across, which is pretty cool. You with me so far? So we're just taking the request information here from a GET. Post works the same way. You just say $post. But again, these are essentially read-only, so I think doing the post is a little overkill for this. Awesome. Now, if we were going to deal with numeric values, right, we can say something like, we'll do name, major, and maybe we have, we'll come back to our form here first. So we'll ask, let's say, how many, or how much does one credit cost? This is cost per credit. Again, the name needs to be unique here. If you don't use a unique name, it's going to be really hard to get that value out after the data is sent to you. And then we'll do another here. We'll say enter number of credits you are taking. We'll call this number of credits. Okay, so again, we'll come back to our page. I'm going to go back here. Now we get how much does one credit cost. So we'll say $100 for a credit. We're going to take 12 credits, be full time. We'll see they just get appended to the GET request here. This is all my request data. It's all put in here. This is the query string. Is the technical term for the query string. And you might actually be familiar with this. If you go to google.com and you Google something, how to PHP, you're going to see a search queue for query, how to PHP, plus all sorts of other nonsense that Gmail or Google uses to track you, all sorts of other information. But we'll see this how to PHP is sent as a GET request. So it's appended to the URL, google.com/search. We get some response back, right? So we use GET requests all the time. You might see them show up places. All right, so then back on our display page here, we need to get that information out. So I'm going to say this is the price per, or cost per credit, right? Cost per credit is again my $get. And I don't remember what I called it, so cost per credit. If you double click on something, it's going to highlight the whole word for you, right? So like double click on any word, it's going to highlight it. So I want to do for cost per credit. And another one here was going to be my number of credits. Dollar number of credits is equal to my dollar get number of credits. Okay, so all I've done is get those values out. So now I can do some arithmetic. I can say total credits equals my dollar cost per credit, and it's going to suggest, hey, did you mean the cost per credit variable? Tab will autocomplete it. Right? You don't need to do more typing than you need to. So type a couple letters, and it's going to suggest for you here, hey, did you mean this? And say, yeah. Oh, not total credits, total cost. Total cost. Here. Okay? So now PHP has done some arithmetic for me. Fantastic. We like that. So now I can say let's add another line break here, right? /br for line break. The cost for this semester is, and we'll do our PHP echo. And I'll probably even put like a $sign in because that'll make it look pretty, right? $, PHP echo total cost. Semicolon. And my PHP, add another line break just to make it look kind of pretty. Okay, so I'll come back to my page and refresh. I'm going to see $1,200. Right, cost per credit was 100, 12 credits. Now, if we want, we can make this prettier here. You can do this cool thing called number format. So a number format here is going to add in the right, my goodness. And it'll make sure the decimal place is correct. And I believe it's going to add the commas for me. I should double check that here. But we can add another variable here. This will be total cost, we'll say formatted, is equal to, and we're going to use this cool thing in PHP. So anything that's in quotes here is a string, right? Quotes, ors, apostrophes is a string. Now, to take one string and smush another string together, remember like back in Java, it's string plus string. And it would do that string concatenation. In PHP, it's the period is the append string or concatenate string option here. I don't know why, but it's not a plus sign, it's a period here. So when you're working with strings, you use period here. I'll say, okay, here's my total cost. I want number format. And it says, oh, hey, you want the number format function. So we can call a number format function. So we're going to give it the total cost, comma, how many decimal places? We want 2 decimal places. In case our number of credits wasn't, we would, if it wasn't an even dollar amount, we could format it. So we're adding the $sign. We're doing our formatting here. It should be nice and pretty now. Semicolon. So we're going to append the number format with this dollar, or the period here, to the $sign to make it look prettier. Then I can echo that total cost formatted, and I don't even need my $sign anymore because it is part of the total cost formatted. All right, we'll give that a refresh. And now, look at that. I even get my commas. I get my decimal places. So if we said, hey, that was like 100.01. Oh, goodness. 0.01, not -1. 01. Right? It's going to nicely format it for me. Right? Or if I said like 001, we said it was like 100th of a penny because we want to be like a gas station. It's going to round it here, format it for me to the 100 to only 2 decimal places because that's what we gave it here. So you can do some cool stuff with that, with the number formatter. Okay, doing the formatting here. Again, I'm fond of the book's style. Do it all in the PHP here. Everything that's code, do in your code block. Then all you have to do is echo. Those echoes are nice and pretty. Now, you could totally put that number format out here and do the number format and do this appending and all that information. This whole line of code could essentially go in here, but it's a little uglier then. So like this way we see, okay, we're doing all my code stuff up here. Down below, we're just echoing. We're just going to take it, stick it into the HTML, we're good. So I like that sort of convention. It makes it a little easier to read here. Nice and pretty. And what's cool is PHP, you don't have to tell it, hey, this is a number. Hey, this is a string. Hey, this is a floating point number with decimal places. It just figures it out because you said, hey, go get whatever it is, and it's going to figure out what it is. It's just going to try. Now, one thing we have to be careful of is people can put bad things into requests. So because all of those requests come from a client, we don't want to trust our client to do the right thing because clients, most of the people out there are fine, but some people will try and do bad things. So what we want to do is we want to, let me go look up real quick, a JavaScript alert. We want to protect ourselves from people doing nasty things here. Let me just go copy paste this real quick. Here's my script. I don't want a function. I just want it to alert. Let me put it in Notepad real quick. And we just want to alert. End the script. Here's the alert. All right, so if I grab all of that, it should work for me here. I'm going to go back to my form page here. And if I put, like, my name is here, and I put some JavaScript code here, and I click me, it sent everything that was in there right back to the client, and it's going to run that JavaScript on my computer, on the client side. And you can put some nasty things in here to do all sorts of bad stuff if you can execute JavaScript on demand on someone else's computer. So like if you send someone a link with some JavaScript in it, you can do some nasty things, and maybe those people will click the link because they trust that you probably wouldn't send them a bad thing. So that's bad form, right? So don't trust the client, right? That's the goal here. No, so SQL injection happens when it runs on the server side. We'll get to that when we talk about our SQL interactions and how to protect against that. This is more the client side. You can do all sorts of like cross-site scripting attacks and other nasty things. You can just do other pop-ups, be like, hey, put your username and password in, and it'll send it off to them. So it's good form not to trust anything from the user, right, to verify all of it. So what we want to do then is before we give it to the user, we want to use a thing called HTML special characters. So if you use HTML special characters, it's going to take whatever that value is, and it's going to convert anything that is an HTML character into something safe. So I'm going to convert both of these here with special characters. So now if I send that, all of it has been converted behind the scenes to something safe. So what that looks like, if I open up my DevTools again here, and I look at my response, oh, let me just refresh. Here's my response. The raw version here, anything that was HTML got converted. I don't know if you can see that. It's a little bit tiny here, but like the less than sign, this is the HTML escape sequence for a less than sign. In the browser, it looks like a less than sign, but in the raw HTML code, it's not a less than sign. So the browser won't actually run this as JavaScript. It's just going to show it on the screen as what it looks like. So HTML special characters is my safety mechanism to make sure I don't get nasty things provided to me, and I just give it right back to the client. Right? So again, don't trust people. Anything that's going to be text that you're just, so you can work with it on your side, but once if you're going to display it, you need to make sure you use the special characters. So anything that you're going to display should go through special characters. So you can put a note in your code here with // a PHP code comment here. So HTML special chars should be used for any text that you will echo to the requester. Okay, and let me move that down a line because that was running a little long. So any text you're going to echo out to the requester, put through HTML special characters. Make sure it gets encoded properly. Okay, just a good habit here. Yep, and then the rest of the chapter goes through how we would go through and deploy our stuff, running our program, the URLs, that's all good stuff. Now, we won't get to debugging right away. There's like a whole section on it later we'll get to. For now, like if you get the error, it shows you what line number it's at. In Chapter 6, we'll get to the actual debugging portion here. Doing the source code, we did that. That's great. And then it shows you specifically with NetBeans. It's awesome. errors and warnings and things. Yep, new projects. Cool. All right, and that's it for chapter 1. Awesome. So I think we're at a good point. We can take a break. We'll pick it back up with chapter 2, looking at more of this PHP side, other cool things we can do with PHP to get and manipulate data. We'll spend probably another maybe 45 minutes to an hour on it, and then we'll talk about the first project, and then we'll have the second half then of our meeting time for you folks to actually get started, work on it, try this stuff out. I can bounce around, answer questions, hop on screen shares, whatever we need to do from there. Again, the course is really designed as a lab-style course where I'm going to talk maybe for half the time, and then you'll practice it for that half the time and get a chance to try it in class or, in that designated time. But if you're fried and you're just done and, a four credit night class is just too long, I get it. If you want to pick it up and try it another time, no problem at all. I'm happy to chat with you another time. Come to my office hours or meet me another time, book an appointment another time, and we can go from there. Other things to note, at the end of tonight, I'll post the quiz for chapters 1 and 2. It'll just be one quiz with questions from chapter 1, questions from chapter 2. So again, that's your incentive to read the book. You don't need to memorize anything. It's open book, open notes. But when you see a question about, hey, this particular topic, know where to go find it. So it generated the file for me when I made my first website. If it doesn't, you can just go add your own. Let me commit this here. That's good. Here, and you can just copy paste. It's no big deal. So if it didn't give you that starter file, don't worry about it. Just go copy paste from one of these. Come on, GitHub. So again, GitHub is really good at tracking changes to files here. So it's going to say, hey, I see a bunch of new stuff. Right? Because I put it in this folder, it saw, hey, here's my first website folder. Here's a display. Here's an index. And again, anything in this NB project folder, that's a NetBeans project folder, just let it happen. If it changes, great. But you'll see, hey, here's my index file. Here's my display file. Okay, and then the git ignore was updated to say, hey, don't add anything in this private folder. It's great, let that change. But if you see your PHP files, you're in good shape. Okay, that's cool. The feels good man. It doesn't show in my chat as an emote, but it Stream Elements figured that out as an emote here. This is chapter 1. So I'm going to commit. This will take a snapshot of the folder at this point in time, and then I'm going to push. Then you can go view it on github.com. I'm going to use my view on GitHub link. There's also a link out here in D2L, in content, course information. There's the link for the course repository. If you folks want to find it here, that's a great link. Right, the course repository will take you out to this page here, and you can go see all that stuff. So here's everything inside of my first website. You can look at the display in the index page. You're welcome to just copy paste. Right? Sure. Grab all this. Occasionally, it won't copy quite as prettily. So if you click the raw button, it's a little easier to copy paste sometimes. So it's like sometimes it wants to grab these line numbers. It's usually pretty good about it, but every so often, like, you'll get these line numbers included, and you don't want that. So if you need to, you can use the raw option for copy paste. All right, so why don't we take 10 minutes? We'll go take a break. We'll take a breather, get some fluids, get some more coffee, whatever you need. We'll pick it back up with chapter 2 in a minute. Put some more music on. Put on my break screen here. We'll say maybe 7:05 then. It's 10 minutes from now. We'll pick it back up. All right, thanks, folks. See you in a couple minutes. Alrighty, folks. Hopefully, I had a good chance to go stretch here. Cut this down a little bit. Alright, so we're going to pick it back up with Chapter 2. Here, doing a little bit more with our first website. So I'm going to leave the same project here. I'm not going to start a brand new project or anything. So this is really for Chapter 1 and 2 in our first site here, okay? And hopefully that'll be okay. So it will automatically, if it looks like a number, treat it like a number. So it's dynamic typing, or like not dynamic, but I'm losing my words here. Yeah, trying to do arithmetic with text inputs will do all sorts of problems here. So if we go back to our page, let me fix my name here to Eric, and I put like 100. Uh-oh. Unsupported operand type, string times string. That's no good, right? It dies. It's no good. So what we can do instead, we're going to look at in just a second here, is we can get that formatted specifically and say, hey, I want this to be a specific type. Okay, so doubles, booleans, strings, integers. You can use scientific notation if you so care to. We're going to look at arrays later on as a type, and then objects are like instances of classes we'll look at later as well. Let's see. Yeah, variable names are case sensitive. You can have numbers, letters, and underscores, no special characters. Can't start with a digit. No reserved words. And get request, yeah, we did that. Posts, yeah, works the same way for us. Get our echoes. All right, what's cool here? So some of these are like when we dealt with doing echoes here. If you use, we didn't actually put any other text out. So let's change this here for fun. So we're going to echo a quote and say, hi there, name. So in PHP, it's going to take hi there, and it's going to take the name variable for us. Check this out. So we'll come back to our page, click me. Oh, shoot, I got to put this back to 100. There we go. We get hi there, Eric. It works the same way. So what happens with the double quote marks is it's going to try and interpret or take any variables and substitute them for you. It doesn't work if you do single quotes. So single quotes, $name here, and I refresh my page, I get $name. So double quotes here then, double quotes, or actual quotes, I guess, I don't know. Does double make sense, or quotes? Will do automatic substitution. Substitutions. Oh, that's not in PHP here. Let me do that as an HTML comment here. Sorry. Apostrophes will not. Okay. So make sure we're doing then double quotes if you want to automatically substitute things. Again, either way is fine, whether or not you want to stick it in the echo or not. For our purposes, it doesn't really matter one way or the other. But just know that will automatically happen with double quotes, which is pretty cool. So double quotes are a little smarter. Right, for all of our operators, we can do addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Modulus works the same. Increment, decrement, like the plus plus and minus minus, those all work the same. Parentheses for order of operations. The combined assignment operators you can do as well. So you can like plus equals. With strings, dot equals or period equals, right? We'll do the string appending, depending on what you want to do there. All right, we did number format. Other cool. Okay, so filter input is what we want to do. So if we want to convert something and say specifically, hey, I only want this as an integer value or a float value here, we have a really cool method. So instead of saying $get and getting it directly out of the get input, here we can use our filter validate, and I want to filter validate a float. And what we do is we say, okay, I want to get it from the input get, the get input here. And then, well, what is the name of it? What's cost per credit? So filter validate float will ensure that it is a valid float value. And if it's not, it's going to handle it for us, which is cool. So if I go back to my page, back here and do like 100, 100, uh-oh. Undefined function. Did I screw that up? I screwed it up. Oh, I'm sorry. Nope. We're going to use that in a second. So it's filter input. We say, okay, I want input get. This is where I'm going to get it from here. Here's the name of it. And then we tell it, hey, validate as a float value here. Sorry, I was out of order. So we'll do the filter input for the number of credits from my input get, number of credits, and we want to filter validate that it's a float. Filter validate float. Oh, come on, filter validate float. I should have just copy pasted. Okay, so if it isn't able to turn it into a value, we're going to get 0 out as our default. So we'll see, hey, I gave it a number, but it's actually turning it into 0. So it keeps us from at least erroring here, and you can validate ints, you can validate floats. It'll even validate email addresses or URLs or booleans, true, false, yes, no, on, off, 1, zeros, that sort of thing. So you can do a lot of validation here. So any sort of validating here, and if you want to do it off a post, it's input post. So filter validate's really handy for making sure that we're getting a correct value off of our input. Now you can even use our filter input for just string values as well. So you can filter input, not input, input for input get, name, and we'll still HTML special characters that. I'll do the same for major here. Major. Then what we're going to get, right, if I take out some of these values, if I take out all these values, oops, PHP, too many backspaces, is it's not going to crash on us. So filter input is really helpful because it's going to actually give us an empty or a null string here, but it's not going to crash. So filtering input is really handy, excuse me, to make sure we get valid values out. So we get defaults if they're not defined. Filter input gives defaults of null for string and 0 for numerics, numerics, right? If it's not defined or doesn't validate. Okay, so like the cost per credit, number of credit, if it doesn't validate, gives me 0. If it doesn't exist, still gives me 0. So I get some default values that will hopefully keep us from crashing here. Okay? Does that part make sense? So pretty much we always want to use filter input. Using that $get is actually considered kind of bad form. All right, and then it takes you through an example, going through, this is like calculating a discount for things. All right, now we can start making our program a little smarter. Right, we can actually have it start making some decisions here. So we can check, hey, if something is true, let's do something here. Right, and you can use the logical operators, you can use ands, you can use ors, you can use nots, they're the same in Java. Exclamations for nots, double ampersands for and, double pipes for or, equals, not equals, less than, greater than, all those are the same for us here. So we can use all those operators. So we could check here, right? We could say if name, oh, I'm sorry, this has to be in my PHP block. In my PHP block. We can say if, actually, we'll use a cool little built-in, we can say empty name. If the name is empty, we want to do a different thing. Right? So if there is no name, we can just echo, we can just go back and enter values, or any sort of correct thing that we want to do here. We can echo that out. Right? Otherwise, in my else here, start a curly brace, end the PHP block. This curly brace is still respected, and then down here, I can close the rest of this off. Another PHP block ending the curly brace. So then this becomes the else block for this if. Now this is a little bit awkward and confusing. Oh, sorry. But it works, right? It gets the job done. So I get, please go back and enter the values. Oops, display. So now we'll put that back to 100. It works properly because name was not blank. So if name was blank, it makes me go back and enter values. Okay, so we can do some checking there. And again, this is a little bit awkward here. We've got like some weird PHP blocks that this is, embedded inside of, and that is a little funny. So maybe it's easier then if all of this is just PHP. We could leave that in a single PHP block here, and then all these echoes make a little bit more sense for us here. Right? And we can include these BRs in our echoes. So I'm going to move the BRs to inside the echoes. Let's see here. I don't know if this makes any more sense, but we're just echoing all of this out then with our double quotes or full quotes. We can just give it a couple different echo commands inside of our block. So echo. That way we don't need a bunch of different PHP blocks. It's all one PHP block here. And that quote, we'll put the BR inside of there as well. Semicolon, and the PHP block. So then all of that now is PHP code. That's a weird, what did it do? Where did I put my curly brace? There we go. Okay. So sure, we could do it like that if we wanted. Right, that's totally an option. And maybe that's a little easier to follow than saying, hey, let me start a PHP block, have a bunch of other HTML and echoes, and then end the curly brace in another PHP block. Gets a little funny. But that's okay, right? Not too big of a deal. And maybe we want to clean this up. We'll say if name is empty, or empty $major. So if name or major is empty, if either one of this is empty, then we'll say go back and enter values. Right? We can also check, right? Or now here we can say my cost per credit equals 0. Right? If the cost per credit is 0, or the name is empty, right? Or we might even say if my what was the other value? Number of credits, or number of credits equals 0. So if any of those are true, then we'll say go back and enter values. And again, you can actually redirect them back. We can do all sorts of other cool stuff we haven't got to yet, but I can do my little sanity checking here and then tell them to go back. Otherwise, I'll give them the right thing. Whichever's going to work out better for you. Okay, and we can check our page again. And then if any of those then we don't have, we'll go say go back and enter values. Right? Or if we did like ASDF there, it's going to validate to 0 because it doesn't validate as a valid float. We'll put it back. 12 credits at 105, 150 cents, $100.50. Sure. Right, we can do all sorts of cool stuff here to validate our input to make sure that we're doing the proper thing with those if-else blocks. Other things we can do is loops inside of our code. We can have while loops. They work the same way as Java. We can have for loops. They work the same way as Java. Right? You get the same initialize, test, and increment for for loops. While loops work the same way. As long as it's true, it's going to run. We can give you some sort of thing here. Right, and then if we're going to actually build out more of an interesting page and have like some sort of navigation that we need, right? Any good programmer is going to be lazy in that we don't want to do more work than we need. So we can make one page have all of our navigation, and we can include that page in all of the other pages. Right? Like when you write a class in Java, you can use that class everywhere else if you want to. So we can have some sort of navigation page and include it, which is pretty cool. So we're going to add that in here. And, again, we don't really have a whole lot of other interesting pages here, but we'll go add another page. Why not? So we'll add a test PHP page, and we're just going to echo test. Just to have another page here. I'm just going to echo out test. Technically, it's unnecessary, but I like to have them in there because I'm weird. I'm going to add a new PHP file. We'll call this the top navigation. And in top navigation, I don't actually need any PHP code here. This can all just be a bunch of links. Or what I want to do is I'm going to start off my HTML body here. And inside that body, I don't actually need the closing tag. I'm going to leave that open, which is a little bit funny, but it's just the way I'm going to put my pages together here. We're going to add a bunch of links. So links, remember, are A links, these anchor links here. So the href is going to equal test.php. We'll say test. That ends our anchor. No, I don't want the comment. And then we'll add, maybe not even a line break. We'll just add more. And then we'll have another one for index.php. Well, it's the index page. And why not one for display? Right. Display.php. And then what's cool, right? This is all just plain code here, or just plain HTML. It's all static. But in my test page, right, I can include. So my PHP block, we're going to include, or so you can use include or require. Require means if it can't find it, it will crash. Include goes and tries to take the file and jam it in once. So, depending on what you want to do, requires are fine, includes are fine too. I'll just use an include. I'm going to say include. I need to tell it where to find it. I want to include top navigation. .php. And then we'll echo test. And we'll say maybe test page. Sure. And you can have all sorts of other HTML stuff in here if you wanted. Let's give this a quick refresh. I'm going to try test.php. And I say here's test index display. Oh, so maybe I need to bump this down a line here. So we'll echo put a line break. And then we'll say test page. Okay, now I get display will take me to display. There's no values there. Index will take me to index. Test will, takes me to test. But on all my other pages, I can include top nav then. And I don't need all this other HTML opening stuff here, right? Instead of starting the body, I can just say PHP include top nav, and then echo a line break or something. Sure, why not? Go BR. And then that. So I can just include that on my pages here and not have to have all of that in all the other ones. Right? That way we can kind of share the components. We can reuse that piece here. So now if I go to all my pages here, I get my little top navigation is the same among all of them. So what's happening behind the scenes when the web server gets this request and it sees, oh, hey, include, it literally goes out to that PHP file, takes all of it and just jams it in to this file. Says, okay, take everything here and jam it in. So you can build these top navigations, you can build footers, headers, anything you want here, like add your little copyrights, whatever stuff you want to do, it's fine. We'll throw all of that into whatever page you're including it on. The kids are not doing so hot downstairs. It's going to be a rough night, unfortunately. All right, so we can include. This makes life a little easier for us. And then the book goes out and gives you a little, another example of how we can have some of these pages check a bunch of values, which is pretty cool. So displaying results, it just goes through a little future value thing. And then if you ever want to go look up anything in PHP, there's PHP Documentation you can go find at my browser here, php.net/docs.php. You can look up all things PHP in the documentation for it here. Right, view online in English. Right, anything we want to do, you can check out some of their installation, their tutorials, basics. They have all sorts of great stuff here. HTML, special characters. It'll show you, hey, here's the function. It's going to tell you what it does. It's pretty cool. So you can go find all that info. Right, and that's it for chapter 2, actually. There's a lot there, but a lot of it's like basic programming. So with like doing arithmetic, those sorts of things, because you've already had a programming course, we don't need to spend a lot of time on it. It works the same way in PHP land as it does. So we go to GitHub and I'll check on my files here, and it should say, hey, top nav is new, test is new, index was changed. It says, hey, these lines were removed, this line was added. Display, these lines were removed, these lines were added. So this one's, a lot of changes here, but that's okay. This is chapter 2 stuff. Okay, so we got all those examples out there. Okay, so the book takes us through a fun little example of calculating the future value of something. And checking, making sure our numbers are all good. You can calculate all that out later, that's fine. Of like, hey, if I get this sort of return on investment, we're going to do kind of the opposite of that here. Okay, so for our first assignment, we're going to do an amortization schedule, or like a loan payoff schedule here. So let me go start up a new project here. Oh, I'm going to set up a classroom link for you real quick. 2454. There we go. So CIS 2454, fall 2021. This is project 1. Okay, so we'll get a repository link to make a brand new repository for you. We'll use the Java template here. Great. And use the feedback pull requests. All right, here's the link. So for project 1. All right, we're going to have 2 weeks for this one. So it'll do on the 23rd at 6 p.m. So the first thing we're going to do in class on the 23rd is I'll go over a solution to this. We have a new grade here for project 1, projects category. Okay, so create a loan payoff calculator. So we're going to have an index, a PHP page, with the form for the user to enter total loan amount. Enter total loan amount, interest rate. This should be the yearly interest rate. Yearly interest rate. Sorry. And then payment. So they're going to enter the total loan, the yearly interest rate, and how much they're paying. We'll call this the monthly payment amount. Okay? The monthly payment amount. Okay? Send the form action to a calculate.php page. That will then calculate the loan payoff for each month. Right, so the idea is the formula here is going to be your total loan amount is going to be your current balance. Our current balance starts as the total loan amount. Okay, then for each month until the current balance is or as long as the current balance is positive, keep looping. Right, we're going to do this for every month. So we're going to take the current balance. Current balance gets increased by the yearly interest rate divided by 12. Remember, because this is monthly. Right, so take that interest rate. If the interest rate is 6%, take 6% divided by 12. Okay? So we're going to add that interest onto the current balance. Okay? So the current balance gets increased by the yearly interest rate divided by 12. Right? Then subtract the monthly payment from the new current balance. And this keeps on going, right? As long as the current balance is positive. Keep on looping. So we need to display the current loan amount or current balance for each month. So we're going to say, okay, if you start off with a $10,000 loan and you're paying $500 and at whatever percent interest, we're going to say, here's the current balance this month. Month 1, it's this. Month 2, it's this. Month 3, it's this. So you'll see the balance go down and down and down and down and down as you go. Okay? Right? And we need to also check if the payment isn't larger than the monthly interest, display an error instead. Right? So if your interest every month is larger than the payment that you've entered, your loop is going to run forever and it will never finish. So instead of doing that, display an error. Okay? We just need a text submission. So I'm going to say, please submit the URL, your feedback, pull request, along with a self-assessment using the rubric. Okay, and we also want to have the name here, just for fun. Enter the name, pay for each month. Display the user's name along with the payoff schedule. Right? Payoff schedule is this monthly, hey, what is the balance every month? Or the error message. Okay? All right, so we're going to add a rubric for this here then. This is for project 1. And again, it's either done or it's not done. Again, it's possible for partial points if it doesn't really work correctly, but ideally it just works here. So if the feature is missing, no points. If it's complete, you get points here. So the index.php page has the form with inputs for name, total loan amount, yearly interest rate, monthly payment. Okay, and then the calculate PHP page filters all inputs. You get a point for filtering the inputs. Not a group in there, sorry. Delete that. Did I spell calculate wrong? Calculate, I think that's fine. It's just because I added a PHP. Okay, so the calculate PHP page will display an error if the monthly payment is less than the monthly interest. Right, so you have to calculate what that monthly interest is. Now remember, every month it's different, and the idea is it goes down. But if the first month, if the interest that would be added that month is larger than the payment, you're never going to pay off that loan because the interest is going to keep adding up. That's where we display the error there. Okay, calculate PHP page. Formats the user's name using HTML special characters. Right, make sure you're using that special characters when we display their name so they don't do any sort of that weird, nasty JavaScript stuff. And then calculate PHP page correctly calculates the monthly interest to be added to the current balance. Right, so that calculation is correct. And then the new monthly balance is displayed for each month. And the calculate PHP page, I guess each of those should be for the calculate PHP page, right? Correctly calculate PHP page, then it's the new monthly balance. Each month does the interest, the new balance. What am I missing here? No, that's it. That's it there. So, all right, some of these need to be worth a little bit more. I want this to be worth a couple more points. So let me do custom points here. All right, so 1 point for your index page, 1 point for filter your input. Let's do 2 points for that error calculation there. 1 point for calculating their name. 2 points. I don't think that's a bot command there, 23 Emma. Sorry. Properly calculates there, calculates here. Does that add up? Oh, it's only 9. Let's see. Let's do 2 points for filtering all the input. That way we get nice 10 points here for this project. Okay? So when you turn it in, you're going to give me the URL for that feedback pull request, along with how many points you earn for each of these items. Okay? Now the goal is you get 10 points, right? I want everyone to be successful, and if you're getting stuck somewhere, again, try for a good half hour to an hour of figuring out yourself what's not going right, and then reach out. Happy to jump on a screen share, get you pointed in the right direction here. I don't want you to be spending hours and hours and hours just banging your head against the wall. That's not good for anybody, okay? So the problem is when you view the rubric, you can't click anything. So for that self-assessment, you'll paste the URL and then say, okay, for this, you can just copy paste. This objective, I got 2 points. This objective, I got 1 point. This objective, I got 2 points, whatever it is. And what's your total score? Okay? Oops, that'll be out of 10 points then. There we go. Excuse me. So we're going to use a loop for this, right? We're going to use some of that formatting. We're going to use some of that filtering the input. I'm fine with being a GET request. I don't think post really makes sense here. You're welcome to do a post request if you want. GET or post is perfectly fine. Either one I'm okay with. That makes sense so far? That should get us through everything from chapter 1 and 2. Again, we're not really including any other chapters, but that's okay. Not too big of a deal here. We should be in pretty good shape. Just practicing some of these basic PHP skills. Okay? How you folks feeling so far? Make sure I've got everything saved. All right, sounds good. Appreciate it. Get this closed out here. I'm hungry too. I gotta go get some dinner. But I'll be around the rest of the night. I'm happy to hop on screen sharing sessions, get you folks pointed in the right direction. Or if you want to call it a night, we can meet another time. Totally up to you. I'm going to go stop my Apache. Salty corn. Ooh. I'm not a big popcorn fan. It gets stuck in my teeth, and that just bothers me. I don't know. It's a little weird. Ooh. Yeah, fajita sub. That sounds good. I think my wife was making soup for everybody else, so we go get some chicken soup. It's good because everyone's not feeling good, so chicken noodle soup is where it's at. All right, folks. It's been fun. Let me, just for fun, we'll send a raid off to somebody. Just totally optional as part of the fun of being here on Twitch. But on the ending screen here, I'm happy to meet with you after the fact. Let me know if you want to hop on Zoom or Discord, and we can go from there. All right, folks. Take care. Let's see who's around that we can raid. Well, let's go talk with Psych Queen. Psychology is super interesting. We don't give enough credit to the soft skills side of things. You got 1,000 followers? That's awesome, Professor Burp. Way to go. So psychology is fantastic. Understanding why people think the way that they do and interacting with people is fantastic. You know, anybody can write code, but kind of working with people. Hey, thanks so much for lurking today, Rock and the Hermit. Good to see you. Let's make sure I can spell your name right. Shout out for you, my friend. We'll send a raid over to Psych Queen, another member of the Knowledge Fellowship. Expand TKF here in chat for more. Just a bunch of streamers who like to share their knowledge. You folks take care. Let me know what I can do for you.